Okay, so after that brief introduction, we're just going to go ahead and jump into our conversation for tonight. So we wanted to provide an agenda of the content that we're planning to cover. This will be very interactive, very engaging. If you have questions, feel free to flag us down. But again, we're just going to provide some general information on composting efforts on grounds and how we can expand those efforts over the coming months and or years. So our speakers tonight, that feels like a very formal term, the individuals who will be presenting, will give some quick introductions. We'll dive into a segment on what composting is and where it goes here at UVA. We'll talk about locations for composting on grounds. If you have compostable materials, where can you take them? We will then head into an overview of waste streams. So what materials do we typically see in trash, landfill, or in landfill recycling and composting on grounds. And then the last portion of the conversation will focus on ways to get involved and current and past initiatives in hopes of galvanizing some more support for things that are already happening instead of reinventing the wheel. Again, if anyone has questions at any point, stop us, put it in the chat, and we will do our best to answer. So I am Leela Garner. I'm the sustainability coordinator in the Office for Sustainability, and I focus specifically on student engagement. So overseeing any interns in our office, working with some of our student groups like sustainability advocates, eco leaders, and the newly formed Zero Waste Ambassadors program, and then collaborating with any CIOs or departments or offices that have some type of sustainability drive or mission. I have been playing a role in expanding composting efforts on grounds. Obviously, it's really popular with students. A lot of individuals have asked for it. And so by nature of the work that I do, I'm kind of at the forefront of navigating those spaces so we can get more composting around grounds. And with that, I'll pass it over to Sonali.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sonali. I am a fourth-year undergrad computer science major, and I am the student co-chair of the Materials Working Group. The Materials Working Group's goal is to reduce and divert material waste on grounds, and we are a subgroup of the Environmental Stewardship Subcommittee. So we're not a CIO. We interface a lot directly with the Office of Sustainability, with the recycling department at UVA, with a lot of other staff and faculty, as well as students. So we're kind of in a unique position to interface between students and the administration of the university. And throughout my years, I've been focused on a lot of different projects regarding composting. And with that, I'll give it to Sarah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Kirk. I'm a first year on the STEDCO Sustainability Committee. And I've been working with Sonali to get this up and running because we realized that a lot of different CIOs and groups on grounds were dealing with like composting on their own. So we wanted to kind of combine forces and get everybody kind of on the same page about composting and show that student council is also working on composting as well within like this, our sustainability committee, where we're focused on increasing sustainability efforts around grounds in a large scope. Some of our recent projects include divestment, an Earth Festival, and things like sustainable fashion.
So I'll take this slide. So to give an overview of what composting is in general, it is the act of decomposing organic solid wastes. So typically you think of food waste. There's different kind of rules depending on where you are, but at UVA specifically, that includes all food waste, including like meat and dairy. I know sometimes that's a question of whether those things can be composted. And it also includes paper products, so like napkins, paper towels, compostable food containers that I'm sure everyone here has seen either at the dining hall or at the food trucks. And there's even things like compostable silverware and compostable plastics, which give the illusion of being plastic, but they're actually compostable. And so at UVA, all of that organic waste, which is directed towards composting, is sent to Black Bear Composting Facility. It's a facility in Waynesboro, which is some miles away from here, but fairly near. And they take all of our organic waste. With regards to composting, the reason that you don't see compost bins just everywhere on grounds is because contamination is such a big issue. Black Bear is a fairly small facility, and so they don't have the means to accept a high percentage of contamination, and so they accept virtually zero contamination. Because of that, composting bins have to be pretty heavily guarded in some way when they are open to make sure that the material going into the bin is actually compostable and not non-organic waste. And so that's part of the reason why often, if you can remember pre-COVID times, during events, you would see students like picking through compost bins, and at Green Games doing the same thing to sort through the material to make sure that it's only compostable material within those bins. So here are some photos from Blackberry composting. And so it's kind of interesting how it works. It's basically just a big mass of land, and all of the material gets dumped into what essentially is this giant dirt pile, and the pile gets turned and the matter gets decomposted with heat and air over time. And you can see, even in the right picture, you can see one of the compostable to go containers, the like paper containers from probably like the dining hall or something. So pretty cool stuff.
So we wanted to ground today's conversation. Obviously, composting takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, and a lot of effort. And so some of you might be asking, why are we pushing this across grounds in such a serious way? And the answer is, last year, the Board of Visitors approved our new sustainability plan, which will guide the strategic vision of our office over the next decade. So it will take us to 2030. And in that plan, there are 10 goals, which are listed here to the right via icon, that we're striving to achieve by 2030. One of those goals, the goal that is obviously highlighted, is a very ambitious waste minimization goal. So it says, or it requires, that we will reduce waste generated to 30% of 2010 levels. So we're looking at that number of the weight generated back in 2010, and we're hoping to cut that down by 70%. Which feels like a really big drop. I still get pretty anxious when I think about it and when I say it out loud, but we're gonna need to make some serious infrastructural and behavior changes on grounds in order to achieve that goal. And one of those large changes is really moving towards composting on grounds and making sure that it's accessible and that students know how to participate appropriately. So that's why we wanted to start having these conversations with interested folks, because it will require a huge amount of buy-in from everyone that's frequenting grounds. And yeah, I will pass it.
Leela, can I jump in here?
Yep.
So this goal out of the 10, I think, is the one that makes me the most nervous as well. And part of that is because we unfortunately don't have the data here, but UVA's waste in general over the past couple of years has either been increasing or staying stagnant. It's not really decreasing in any trend. And so to get there by 2030, we really have to make dramatic changes. And so that's why these type of initiatives that we're talking about today, they're not only crucial, but they're time dependent. So we have to make good change, and we have to make that fast.
Yeah, that's a great.
I might say something also about it. It's also one of the reasons why it's harder is because some of these other goals are can be more resource driven, like from the top down. We can have different places reduce their fossil fuel usage or put like low stream water faucets on, and those are ways you can get these other goals. But with reducing waste, when it comes to like things like composting and throwing things out, we need to change people's behaviors on an individual level. And it's much harder to change groups and individuals' behaviors than it is to just kind of create a new goal or like a new implementation of new mechanisms. So it's that behavioral aspect that we're trying to kind of target with our new initiatives.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah and Sonali. So now we're going to talk about the spaces that currently provide composting for students or anyone involved with the UVA community to use. So thankfully, we do have a number of resources. We do not expand across all of grounds, but it's a start, right? So we do have a number of food providers that provide composting in residential spaces. So currently all of the dining halls are providing compost bins inside since UVA Dine had to switch to single-use materials due to COVID and safety concerns. So anyone entering the dining hall should be able to put all of their materials into a black bear tote as they leave. We have also recently started providing zero waste stations, which I will show in just a minute via photo. At the O Hill tent. So anyone can use those bins. You don't have to be eating at O Hill to drop compost in there, but if you grab a bowl from Roots or if you have a smoothie from Juice Laundry at the AFC, you can certainly feel free to utilize those bins. The castle, which is on the bottom floor of Bonnie Castle and featured in the image on the right, provides composting, same with Fine Arts and West Range Cafe. And those are the food providers that currently offer composting in their spaces. These are photos of the newly installed zero waste stations at the O Hill tent. On the left, that is me and Sarah right after we had set it up. On the right, that is the corral where we're keeping all of the totes. And so far it's been going really well. We've seen very little contamination and we're hoping that this model will continue to work as we spread throughout grounds. There are also a number of residential spaces that provide composting. And I do want to be transparent. The reason that they are able to provide this resource to individuals who live in their dorm spaces is because they've gone through a number of trainings and a number of conversations. So unfortunately, we're not at a spot right now where we can offer it inside all residence halls. And these are very curated programs that have taken months to pull together. But it is a resource in the IRC, Brown College, Hereford College, and then there's also a newly installed bin in the Colonnade Alley of the Lawn for individuals who live there. And I'm going to pass it back over to Sarah to give us a quick update on composting on the lawn.
Yeah, so this one is relatively new, the Composting on the Lawn and Colonnade Alley. It was placed there only about 2 weeks ago. Already, unfortunately, we're seeing some issues with contamination, but overwhelmingly we've put out, to start with lawn of rain residents, specifically we put out materials for them to tell them like, this is what you can compost, this is what you can't compost, and just to inform them that they're there. If we see that advertising and education works for lawn and range residents, we'll start to expand more to overall like UVA social media to see if we can get more people aware of it, because we're thinking that a lot of people use the lawn. So if we can get those places and those people aware of this bin specifically, maybe we can have like visitors, guests walking around who are just happening to have like a picnic on the lawn to then know that this bin is there and will use it. So it's a pilot program right now with the Studco Sustainability Committee that I'm a representative of, and we're hoping to be able to expand it. This one's kind of like our experimental bin for right now.
And Sarah, to add to your point on that, currently with the lawn composting, Sydney, who is the chair of the Sustainability Committee on Studco, goes there every week and like personally sifts through the bin. So it really is like work on behalf of the people putting out these totes, and which is why we want to really educate the student body, because if the general student body can compost well, that just means we can increase composting around grounds, and we don't need like specific people to check every bin all the time, you know, and it really just makes it more sustainable.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that, Sonali. And then lastly, in terms of where you can compost on grounds, this map is a bit outdated, but we had a student group who pulled this together in terms of restaurants or food providers that provide composting, where we conduct back of house composting, composting in residence halls, and then kind of miscellaneous specialized composting locations. I did want to put an ask out if we have any students who are interested, particularly interested in composting and map creation. We would love to create a new version of this map, potentially in ArcGIS, that would be a little bit easier to update and edit as we continue to make these changes. So go ahead and shoot me an email if you are interested, and we can get you on that project. So next, I wanted to give a quick overview of waste streams at UVA. So what materials we typically see coming through these various bins. We also have recycling expert Sarah Smith on the call, so I will let her chime in after I give a quick overview if she has any follow-up notes. So there's 4 main streams that we're working with at UVA, and those streams are paper, metal, glass, composting, and landfill. Composting is a specialized stream, so we don't offer it everywhere, but paper, metal, glass, and landfill bins should be dispersed pretty consistently across grounds. In terms of materials that can go in the paper bins, it's pretty straightforward. Any unsoiled paper and or cardboard. It does not matter if it's colored paper, if it has ink on it, it can all go into the paper bin. Metal glass is also very straightforward. Soda cans, aluminum foil, glass, or any other metal items that you might see around the grounds. Compost is typically food waste, any compostable wares like Sonali mentioned earlier with the to-go clamshells. Paper towels can be composted. And I did want to note that we get a lot of questions about whether paper should go in the paper recycling bin or the compost bin. If it is unsoiled, which means it's clean, it's not wet, it doesn't have food waste on it, it should absolutely go into the paper bin so it can be repurposed with a less energy intensive process. If it is soiled, if it got wet, if it's covered in some type of food related item, then you can put it in the compost, but that's the second best option. So compost is obviously better than the landfill, but I wanted to make note of that kind of myth or question that we get a lot. And lastly, any items that are styrofoam or wax lined. So a lot of coffee cups that you see have that wax lining so the paper doesn't disintegrate with the hot liquids. Those all have to end up in the landfill. And typically we see a lot of fast food items in the landfill too. So Chick-fil-A, Subway, Five Guys, Bojangles at the football stadium would all have to end up in the landfill as well. Sarah, do you want to chime in with any comments?
What about plastics?
Oh my gosh, I forgot plastic.
Well, but
Sarah,
that fits
kick it off.
that fits in 2 different categories. That's both a recyclable for standard plastics, and any bioplastics can go in the compost. So cold cups that you might get from Juice Laundry, or last time I was at Bodo's, my orange juice came in a compostable cold cup. In the little triangle at the bottom, it says number 7, and then usually the letters PLA. That means it's a compostable plastic, not a recyclable one. So those can 2 different bins. But.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a long week. I can't believe I forgot plastics, and this is recorded, so this will be forever on the cloud. Yes, we accept plastics 1 through 7 at UVA, which includes soft plastics like bags or sticky wrap, stuff like that. Okay, I see we have a question about clothing. So when it comes to clothing, I typically donate it to community organizations like Goodwill or the Salvation Army. Another option that I'm a huge fan of, if this is within purview of where you live, is joining your local Buy Nothing group. So that's an online community on Facebook where you can freely exchange items with other members in your community or neighborhood. And it's a great way to give back to your neighbors. And similarly, you might also be able to obtain some pretty cool items from that group as well. So if you're interested, I would just Google Buy Nothing and then the neighborhood or town that you live in, and something will likely pop up when it comes to groups. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Sonali to walk us through some opportunities for engagement.
Hi, so I hope you guys have realized that there's a lot of work to be done with regards to waste at UVA. And really there's so many avenues that you can go through if you want to get involved. At the end of the day, everyone who's involved with sustainability at UVA tends to talk to each other and communicate with each other. And so no matter who you go to specifically, you'll be part of this larger community on grounds. But specifically, there is the materials working group, which is what I'm the chair of. If you want to get involved with us, you can email me directly, and my email was at the beginning slide. So again, we just, I think we're a good interface between students and administration, specifically with regards to recycling and composting and waste at UVA. There's also the STUDCO Sustainability Committee, and Sarah, if you want to say a couple words on that, you can, but there's an application process to that. You can apply next year. Sarah, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so like Sonali said, the Sustainability Committee works within the parameters of Student Council because we are a committee member for them. So we have ways that we can talk with the larger student council out of the whole at general body meetings. We can bring things up there. But also it is an application based. So if anybody here would like to join the sustainability committee, we will be accepting new members hopefully next semester, which we'd love to see everybody there. We always can have like new support and new ideas for the committee.
Yeah, and STUDCO is really a great place to be. And I've been working with STUDCO pretty heavily this whole year because they have so much influence over like CIOs in general at UVA. There's also the Zero Waste Ambassadors, and I think Leela mentioned this, but Leela, you can go ahead.
Sure. So this is a new program, very new. We just rolled it out a few weeks ago, but we have a cohort of students who are staffing these waste stations, these compost bins every day to make sure that we're not seeing any contamination. So students are going out there physically sorting through these bins to make sure that we can continue these efforts across grounds. We're hoping to expand the Zero Waste Ambassadors program and continuously expand it so we can cover more areas around grounds, but we're going to see how OHIL goes first. But that could be a potential opportunity if you're interested in a hands-on role next semester.
Next is the Green Leaders Listserv. This is kind of a general listserv for anyone who's interested in sustainability at UVA. If you want to get on, you can email me or email Leela, and we'll put you on that as well. And this is just a good place to be aware of events that are going on, some promotions, that sort of thing. Next is the Eco Network. This is just kind of a directory that was created last year, I believe, recently. And it's on the STUDCO website. This is a pretty comprehensive view of like everything sustainable at UVA. So all the different CIOs, there's even professors on there who are like known for being really sustainable and climate friendly and that sort of thing. So if you're looking for a group that's a little more niche or specific, or something that's not related to materials, then I would totally look at that website and you can see what piques your interest. And lastly, you can follow Sustainable UVA on Instagram and Twitter. And again, that's a good place to just get general information, promotion, see what's going on with the Office for Sustainability. Cool, so this is the fun slide. So I want to talk about past and mostly past initiatives that have gone on with regards specifically to composting. So like I said, I've done a lot of projects with composting as part of the materials working group. And a lot of these have been pilot programs where we're trying to see how feasible it is to make composting permanent. And every time we kind of run into the same problem, which is that there's a low but consistent amount of non-compostable contamination in virtually every bin, and that has to be sorted manually. And so just for some examples, I did paper towel composting. This was composting done in the bathrooms of Newcomb and Clem Library. And because all of the paper towels in bathrooms are totally compostable, to me, it seemed like a very easy switch to just replace the trash can with the compost bin and all is good. But that clearly wasn't the case. We still found some contamination here and there. And then unfortunately, COVID cut us off short. So that was kind of put on the back burner. We also did some pop-up composting at the food trucks. This is where during like busy lunch hours pre-COVID, we used to have like pop-up composting stations, tabling events, basically to try to educate students as well as obtain all of those compostable containers that you get from the food trucks. There's also the green games, which Leela for the most part has been in charge of. But again, this is like at athletic games and specifically the big like one of the basketball games during the season. One of those would be a green game, and we would again just do like a zero waste as much as possible, get all the waste from that event. So those first three are really related to composting, and I bring those up because if anyone here is really interested in composting or wanting to start their own initiatives, I think it's important to know what's already been done so you don't have to start from scratch. And that being said, I think we're at a point where we really need creativity in our solutions because we kind of have this time crunch of the next 10 years. We have a lot of waste reduction that needs to get done. And so I don't think the best path moving forward is to continue doing pilots. I think pilots are important and they're part of the solution, but we also need creative endeavors to make sure that we can permanently reduce waste at UVA and make infrastructure change at the university. And so if all of that sounds interesting to you, definitely reach out to me, reach out to anyone on this call, Sarah or Leela or Sarah Smith, and we would love to have you be involved. The next two, Leela already talked about the zero waste ambassadors, but that fourth bullet point right there is a new initiative, very much in the baby steps phase, but it's an initiative that I want to get done. Potentially a plastic water bottle ban for all events on grounds, and for all events hosted by CEOs. Sorry, CIOs, not CEOs. But again, if that's something that sounds interesting to you, definitely reach out.
And I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. We wanted to open it up to any questions, and I have listed some of the common questions that I get in the office. So I am going to continue to share my screen, but go ahead and unmute yourself if you have something that you're wanting to ask, or you can go ahead and drop it in the chat and we will answer as any questions come in. It's also okay if we don't have any questions too. It's totally fine. I see Rebecca with a hand up, or maybe a clap. I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was a clap. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm just gonna go ahead and stop sharing. Okay, any thoughts about expanding composting? Has anyone been able to use composting on grounds in any of those locations that we listed previously?
When I was on grounds at home right now, but I was able to use the composting bins in the dining halls a lot.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I also used the Hereford ones when I lived in Hereford my first year. So, and also like at O Hill and stuff, I would, use them.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, we would love to expand residential composting. Hopefully that can be a priority on our to-do list. So I'm so happy that you've been able to compost at Hereford too.
Are there any first years on the call? I'm like curious if anyone's like interested in sustainability wanting to join.
You already know who I am, but yes. And yeah, no, I've been able to use them in the dining halls. Obviously, there's a whole bunch like lined up against the side, like Sarah was saying. Yeah, and I used the ones at Castle too, I think. Although if I remember correctly, they're like really small. Like, I think, I don't know, for some reason that I remember that. I think I was trying to like throw away a bunch at once and it was just, anyway, they're smaller. They don't look like the normal big green ones, but they are there.
Yeah, they definitely have a different aesthetic at the castle than the normal totes that we see outdoors. But that brings me to a good point. Has anyone experienced any challenges with composting efforts on ground? Obviously, we're all interested in this topic. Do you have any suggestions or opportunities for improvement aside from providing more bins around grounds?
Yeah, I actually, I had something. So I'm in Dillard, and so last semester they had a lot of like single use like cereal cups, and I think it's different at like Newcomb and O'Hill, but at Dillard there's only one like chute, and it all goes to compost. Like obviously, like you can't compost like the plastic cereal or like the cover on the top. So like I'd take mine home and throw it out, but like I also don't think everyone else did that. Like, and they don't do that anymore because they have just like the cereal like jars or whatever, and you like pull it out. But yeah, that was just something that I ended up noticing.
Interesting. So they had the like single serving to go cereal containers. Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was only last.
And that was in the dining hall?
Yeah, in Run.
Okay. Yep. Any other challenges or thoughts on how we can expand composting in particular spaces? Are there any spaces around grounds that people think would be a good location? Like the amphitheater obviously comes to mind, maybe something over by the corner. Okay, I know it's Thursday night and we're all feeling a little tired. If we do not have any more questions, I think we can go ahead and wrap up our conversation for tonight. As always, feel free to reach out to me, Sonali, Sarah, or Sarah Smith if you have any questions or concerns or thoughts. The best way to connect with any of us is via email, or if you didn't catch our emails in the beginning, you can email sustainability@virginia.edu, and that will go directly to my inbox, and then I can forward it along as needed. Any last questions or thoughts? Okay, thank you all. Thank you for helping us begin these conversations. Again, it's going to take a huge effort from everyone at the university. So it's good to know that we have this group of advocates on the call right now, even if some of you are probably graduating soon, like Sonali. And with that, I will say good night to everyone. Again, let us know if you have any questions and enjoy your Friday and the weekend.
Thank you so much. It was a great presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining, Rebecca and Kate.
I had a question. Can we get these slides?
Yes, absolutely. So I forgot to ask for people's emails, but if you want to give me your email right now, I can go ahead and queue up these slides to send to you. And you can share it via the chat too, if that, awesome, great. Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, how do you pronounce your name?
It's Paylene.
Paylene, that is so beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
All right, yep, I have it queued up. I will send it your way in just 1 minute.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Nikita too.
Thank you.
Great work, rock stars.
People came.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was way more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
I think it was good. Yeah, there was a good turnout. I mean, there were a couple people from sustainability, and I was
Yeah, I
very
mean, a
happy to
bunch
see
of them were just my friends, but it's
Hey,
fine.
they're here.
Yeah.
No, it's okay because no one else knew that. So not like
Yeah, exactly.
But like, that's also your friends showing up for you, which is
Yeah, that's nice of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Okay. Well, I will let everyone continue on with their Thursday nights. Thanks for helping out. Perhaps we can.
Bye.
Oh, does someone have a question? Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.